Welcome to Ask the Tech Coach, brought to you by the TeacherCast Educational Network. If you are in charge of professional development and looking to build an innovative digital learning experience, this is the podcast for you. Join us each week as we uncover strategies that tech coaches are using to drive their digital transformations one classroom at a time. And now for your host, with over 2 decades of experience working with tech coaches and ed tech companies from all around the world, Jeff Bradbury.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. This is Ask the Tech Coach podcast, episode number 154. And today, we're going to be talking about how to effectively engage your teachers during that all-important first week of school. I am so happy that you guys are here. I am looking forward to starting my year back. Somebody who has already started their school year is my co-host, Susan Vincent. How are you today? Welcome to Ask the Tech Coach.
Hey, everybody. I am so glad to be here as we have embarked on yet another school year. 21-22 is right upon us.
And I know there's many people that are checking out the podcast for the first time. Welcome if you are there. We release our shows on iTunes and Stitcher and Amazon and all those great places every single Monday morning. We hope that you guys have a chance to check it out. Hit that subscribe button. Share this show with your friends. Sue, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your position? What do you do? And how wonderful are you every single week?
Oh my goodness, it's something different every day, every week, but I am a K-12 technology integration specialist or technology coach at a Christian Academy school system here in Louisville and Southern Indiana. So I serve 3 campuses and work with teachers to integrate technology in their classrooms.
And every single week we get together to share these things. And for those of you guys who aren't familiar with the show, my name is Jeff Bradbury, and I am a lead instructional coach for digital learning for an amazing school district in Southern Connecticut, having the opportunity to work with 2 buildings this year, but really have a chance to help and move 20-some buildings as we're making our way into a more digital learning environment. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You can find all the information over at askthetechcoach.com. Find us on Twitter at Ask the Tech Coach. And of course, we've got some other great things. So don't forget to check it out over on askthetechcoach.com. This is episode number 154. And tomorrow, I am so excited because tomorrow, guys, August the 17th, we're going to be doing the second of our webinars for our Tech Coaches Network. We're going to be talking all about Tech Coach newsletters. Sue, I am excited about it. Last week, we did a great session all about Tech Coach websites.
Yes.
What did you learn from last week, and what are you looking forward to when it comes to all the great things happening tomorrow?
Oh my goodness. So many different structures and layouts that your Tech Coach website can take. And just as you get to know your teachers and deciding what you need to give to them as a coach and what your website should look like. So many great ideas were thrown out, and I can't wait to talk more about newsletters.
Certainly. Don't forget to check that stuff out. You can find out all the information over at askthetechcoach.com. Big banner on the front of the page. We'd love to have you guys join that. It is a free event, as is our TeacherCast Tech Coaches Network. Hope you guys have a chance to join hundreds of coaches this year as we start our school year. And again, one more time, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We are so happy you're here. And today, Sue, we are talking about effectively engaging teachers. I don't know about you, but I know my teachers are nervous about coming back to the school year. Who knows what it looks like? I know we're still wearing masks. I know that our students are kind of nervous to come back. I know our community is looking nervous to come back. And I got to tell you, the one thing that teachers do not want is a tech coach running into their room and saying, hey, I'm going to teach you how to use Google Forms. So today, let's just kind of talk through some of the things to do that with your teachers. Sue, you guys recently started. How's the year starting off? How are your teachers? And what are you doing to kind of settle back into the scheme of things here?
So as you guys listen to this podcast, I will be on my 2nd week of school and have already been through new teacher orientation and the big welcome back day for our teachers. And as I just took time to stroll through the hallways as teachers are setting up their room, I just stick my head in and just ask simple questions of, hey, how are you doing? How was your summer? I'm not going in there and saying, hey, I'm Susan. Let's start getting your Google Drive organized, ready to go for the year. That's not what I do. I build that rapport with them, just having a normal conversation, friend to friend, educator to educator, and just ask them how things are going. What about you, Jeff? How's that go for you? And what does that look like?
This year I'm going to be in 2 brand new buildings, not knowing anybody. So really my first little bit is to be honest, I talk about the kids a lot. Hey, how you doing? This is who I am. This is what I'm looking to do here. How's your family? This is my background. My wife works in the district. And just having something that we're going to get into common with. They don't know me. I will tell you the one thing you don't want to do, and I'm speaking from experience, is you don't want to walk in on that first day and say, hey, I just got my Google trainer. Hey, I just got these badges. Hey, you don't want to do that. You don't want to lead with your job title. You don't want to lead with the job description you want. Hi, how are you? What's new, right? My other questions are going to be, are you new? Like, have you been here before?
Yes, very much.
Is this a new adventure? Again, you might have a new person in the district. You might have somebody who's teaching kindergarten for the first time, and last year they were a 5th grade teacher or something like that, right? I know in both of the buildings, I'm going to have new administration. One is a new principal to the building, but has been in the district. I've worked with this person, and the other person is going to be brand new to the position. I don't even know if that person's been hired at this time that we've been organizing this show tonight. So I'm looking forward to helping 2 brand new administrations get their values. We've talked a lot about having those conversations with principals. I can't even do that at this point. And so I'm looking forward really to, how did Elsa put it? I'm going into the unknown, Sue.
Yes, very much. That's great. And just helping them, especially if they're new teachers, helping them navigate that unknown and just finding that relationship, because they'll find you when they have a need or when they figure out what your job description is. But if you've built that relationship and that rapport and found something in common with them, then they're going to feel comfortable in a few days when they realize what they need.
Now, speaking of hallway conversations, let's talk about that conversation that we have with our principals, right? Obviously, beginning of the year, everyone's in freak out mode. Everyone's trying to figure things out. We know we want to have a conversation with the principal, but I don't know if the first day is the right thing to walk into the office before you leave and go, hey, I met 7 teachers today. Look at me, right? Like, what is that opportunity that we should have? What is that beginning of the school year relationship going to be like with your administrator, assuming you have or haven't set up those meetings and goals and stuff yet?
I think it depends on the administrator themselves. Some of them really, and I have found that in my experience in a couple different school systems, is some of them really want to know who you've talked to that day and what you've talked about. Some of them are like, yeah, just do your thing and I'll do my thing over here. And then they want to debrief, later and just get a summary of what you're doing. So a lot of it just takes a lot of, just like the teachers, you've got to get to know that administrator and kind of find out what they want from you. So it takes some treading water a little bit just to see what they want and need.
I totally agree. One of the ways that we do that is through a simple Google form that we actually have available for you guys. You can head on over to Ask the Tech Coach and you can download a free copy of this, but it is essentially our daily teacher tracker. And we've got a nice video on our YouTube channel over at teachercast.net/YouTube. Walks you through how to build one of these, all the different reasons why the questions exist. But most importantly, we've got a link to have you guys download a free copy of this. If you want to just start with something and really get yourself working to make it your own, we would love to have you guys check that out. It is available for free over at askthetechcoach.com. And look for it. We've got a 3-video series on how to make data dashboards. One of them is all about using Google Forms to create these. The second version is all about using Google Sheets to make charts and graphs. And then in the last video, we talk about what to do with those charts, whether you're going to be putting them into a Google Sites presentation or a Google Slides presentation, something that we can show off the different data. So I always suggest with tech coaches making sure that you start that data process easy. Let's face it, Sue. There's a lot of things that a tech coach can be doing. I think the most important thing in those first couple of days is just stay busy. You are going to find a lot of free time in those first couple of days. So getting yourself organized, getting those data trackers together, meeting with the secretaries, I think is important. Those are important interactions. Like, hey, can I have your staff roster? Hey, can I have the phone numbers? Can I have the, who's the emails and who's the lead teachers? Who do I need to look out for? All of those conversations are really important. So don't forget to head on over to askthetechcoach.com and check out those posts on data trackers and Google Sheets and how to make data dashboards. But that's just the first thing that we need to be doing. Now that we have all that information, Sue, what's the second big thing that tech coaches should be doing at the beginning of the year?
So a huge thing that I've always done, and I know many of you out there doing it, and I would encourage you new people, is to get that introduction email together. And then that's one of those things where if you don't have much to do yet, keeping yourself organized, getting that email composed. And we talked about that in last week's episode. So that introduction email, just telling them, in a few words, who you are, what your role is, and just some of the different services. So what I do is I do a quick welcome back. I tell them what my role is, reminding them if they're new. And then I just make a list of kind of the top 5 things that they need to know to get themselves started for the first week of school. So, okay, you're going to do this to get your students access to the computer. Or you're going to use ClassLink to access this, and this program, this, and this digital curriculum. And then make an appointment with me if you want me to model a lesson using technology. Make an appointment if you want to meet me one-on-one. And how can they make those appointments? So just quick. You don't want a big long list, but just quick, maybe the top 5 of here's how to use me the first few weeks of school.
And how many times do you do that email?
For me, at that beginning introductory email is just that one time. And then, I try not to bombard with emails. I try to use other means like newsletters, which we'll refer to more in a moment. But the beginning of the year, you're going to have to send them a little more email, especially depending on what you're in charge of. So part of my job is helping them get access to their digital textbooks and digital curriculum that the students use. So they get a little bit more email from me in that realm because the beginning of the year, they need to know how they need to get access to all that.
I like to send out those emails a few times. I think every day is a bit much, especially if you're a teacher who's not in the buildings every day. But if you are going to be in a building tomorrow, hey, I'll be here. If you need anything, let me know. I know that our position is not about, changing light bulbs, but if there is anything that you need, right? Like this is the time where you want people just to know your name. You can train them tomorrow, but at least let them know your name. So having that introduction email is great. And you know what, Sue? We've got a blog post over on askthetechcoach.com that's going to give you guys 3 different templates, one from Sue, one from myself, and one that we've kind of crowdsourced from a few of our coaches over on the Tech Coaches Network. And what we'd love to have you guys do is just simply use it, take it, change it, use it as a guide. Having these different introduction emails is so important. Because as I said earlier, you're going to want to do this a couple times. You're going to want to have that first email that's kind of more in detail. And then I like the second email where all of that first stuff gets shifted down a few steps. And then that new thing pops in. And then slowly you just bring that down. Kind of like we're going to be talking about the next thing, which is that introduction newsletter. Right? Making sure that you're going from introducing yourself to providing value. And what does that look like? That could look like a s'more. That could look like a sway. That could look like a Google site. Sue, what do you do for your newsletters? What's your vehicle of choice?
For me, I've tried different ways. Mainly, my way of doing this is using a Facebook group. And I try to post, and it just kind of builds on each other and through the news feed, and then they can find things as they need it. So my Tech Tip Tuesday video is in there, and then any other things that they need to know throughout the week or new items that come up or try this. And I try to do different types of tech tips, whether it be my Tech Tip Tuesday video or, try this in your Google Doc this week and it'll make things easier. Just various ways of presenting that information. I'm not a big person with the pretty newsletter format necessarily in the form of a Sway or a Canva or something like that. I just don't have time for all that.
I love giving my teachers carrots, right? And
Yes.
one carrot could be, hey, here's 2 new keyboard shortcuts I bet you didn't know. Or, hey, did you know that you could do X, Y, and Z in this particular application? Like, there's ways to kind of poke and teach,
Yes.
but not blast that you're trying to pontificate your knowledge and love for Microsoft.
Right. And I think that's where video has become more of a friend to me in that realm.
Yes. What are some of the things that you do to kind of get people's attention? I mean, do you have an equivalent of like, hey, here's my favorite keyboard shortcuts? Like, what do you like to lead with?
Yeah, I do a lot of, here's my favorite Chrome extension, how to get new Google fonts, how to, they, I'm more of an elementary person. So, here's the latest cute background from Slides Mania and, the Magic Rainbow Unicorn font. And they're so amazed at that. And that does dangle a little carrot in front of their eyes.
So we've talked about hallway conversations. We've talked about that introductory email. We've talked about emails going into newsletters. The next thing I think is just a matter of being a fly on the wall, right? Hey, Sue, it's great to meet you. I'd love to, would you mind if I just kind of walked in and kind of, can I just borrow 5 minutes in the back of the room? I just love to see what's happening in the school as I get a chance to learn. What's your method for starting that creeping in the classroom process?
Yes, that's always worked well for me. Thankfully, in both school systems I've worked for most recently, that's been encouraged by the administrators of, you're going to see the tech coach, instructional coaches walking in your room and, keep doing what you're doing. And they are not evaluators. And I think that's important. If the teachers know you're not in there evaluating them, you're not in there for any reason, just to see what they're doing and hopefully be able to offer help later, they're usually open to that. So I just go, stick my head in and just watch what they're doing, or I'll go stand, as closely as I'm allowed to a student's desk and see what they might be doing.
When you do that, are your hands empty? Do you walk in, maybe put your backpack on the floor and roam, stand in the back with your hands kind of folded, sit at the teacher's desk, pull up a chair? What should coaches be looking to this first couple of weeks, especially if they've got, what's the right term? Strangers that they're dealing with, people who they're not familiar with working with yet?
Yeah, when I do that, I tend to not carry anything. I mean, I may have my phone in my pocket, but typically I'm not going to stand back there and be taking notes. I mean, that's a little overwhelming or what's the word I'm looking for? Intimidating. If I was the teacher, you see somebody back there writing and maybe they're writing great things, but still it's intimidating. So I just kind of watch and just take it in. And, with experience and you new tech coaches out there, as you get some experience, it'll feel more comfortable to do that.
I think one of the things that every tech coach needs to have, and this is difficult if you're a traveling coach, is you need a place to put your stuff. Like
yes.
Last year, I found myself running up and down the elementary school with my backpack. And that gets you after a couple hours of doing that. But you are bringing your office with you into somebody else's room, and it does look weird. So I know one of my goals is really be hands-free. I do have my tech coach trackers, all these things that we're talking about, and we're going to show off a few more examples later on this month. But just being able just to be there, right? You're here to help. You're here to support. And the other way that we can do that is to ask permission. I always say ask permission at first. Can I join you for a department meeting? When is everybody getting together? Can I just be a fly on the wall? I love to learn what the climate of the school is. I love, I don't have to say anything. Can I just be there for you guys? And, I call it the Jane Goodall of you got to sit in the back and then you kind of get a little closer and maybe then the teachers start to bite at you guys a little bit.
Absolutely. A lot of times I've had that experience of just sitting there, taking it in just to learn what their procedures and things are. And then they remember that I'm there when they have a certain conversation, and then they look at me of, oh, Susan, could help us with that probably. And them I've invited slowly into the conversation.
And that goes back to, it's one of the best ways to get invited into the classrooms, right? If
Absolutely.
they know you, then you're having those conversations. Maybe you're not in the 5th grade meeting, but if you're there, at least they're asking you, like, who are you? They're curious of what you are and what you do and things like that. And, that's easier. Then you can say, hey, here's why we're going to do this together. Like that. And that's not when you drop, oh, by the way, we're going to engage in the coaching cycle.
Yes,
just,
absolutely.
hi, how you doing? Here's where we are. Now, kind of in that same vein, we want to be a series of resources for our teachers. And as I mentioned earlier, last week we had a great demonstration of tech coach websites, what they should be, what they shouldn't be. And let's just kind of aim that, because that really is the last thing that we want to do today, is talk about our tech coach websites. What advice do you have, Sue, for anybody out there who's looking to put together a tech coach website, looking to revamp a tech coach website, looking to show off and showcase all they can do on their tech coach websites?
Well, I'm sure some of you new coaches, I bet anything, you're ready and raring to create that awesome website with all of the things on there. And you're getting ready to add that to your introductory email for your teachers to access. Let me just tell you, don't overwhelm them. Start simple. Start simple. You want it to be non-threatening. Have a homepage. Digital learning coach, technology integration specialist, Susan Vincent's. I do this, 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 and this. And maybe that's the only page you have right now. And then, maybe you go to that staff training. Maybe you get invited to that faculty meeting to share a tech tip. Then you add Susan's resources page, and then you add that tech tip you've gone over. So just a little at a time as questions start to get asked and you get the chances to share with teachers. And
if you're doing it right, you're taking your free time, if you will, and you're studying their curriculum.
Yes.
Right. So if I'm going to a 5th grade department meeting, I'm going to try to find what's going on in the curriculum over the next few weeks that they're probably discussing. I'm going to have that on my website. So that way, if I am in that department meeting and they have the opportunity to go, Sue or Jeff, at least then you can go, ta-da, we're doing earth science or whatever the topic is, right?
Talk about dangling a carrot in front of their face.
Right. You know what they're going through. Now, how do you find that? Well, maybe your district has a curricular website. Maybe you're talking to the curricular supervisors. Maybe you're talking to the principals. Yes. Maybe you are talking to one of the 4 5th grade teachers and you're like, hey, what are you doing next week? Oh, okay. Yeah. And you just go back and you create some stuff. Right.
So like in my case, and many of you may have this, we have a whole database that houses all of the curriculum maps for each grade level and each content area. So I have administrative access to that. So I can go and pull any curriculum map and I'm like, oh, 2nd grade, they're doing this in science class. So I'm going to go find some resources that might make them want to know more about integrating technology.
Hallway conversations, having a wonderful introduction email, making sure that you're available and there in their classrooms, having them available at their department meetings, making sure that those newsletters are nice and friendly. If your first couple newsletters are too much, they're going to tune you out the entire year. Making sure that you have a non-threatening website that is valuable, but is also not overwhelming at first. I see many people say, oh, go to my website. And they really want you to then click a link to click a link to click a link to click a link. Guys, there's a lot of things that we can unpack in here. And that's why we are here for you guys every single Monday morning with our Ask the Tech Coach podcast. And every single Tuesday and sometimes Wednesday, we have our video show called Tech Coach Weekly. You can find that over on our YouTube channel, over at teachercast.net/YouTube. I hope you have a chance to check out all the great stuff. And don't forget that you can join our free membership site and be one of our Tech Coach insiders, if you will. And would love to have you guys be a part of the TeacherCast Tech Coaches Network. And that wraps up episode number 154 of the Ask the Tech Coach podcast. Sue, where can people get a hold of you and learn more about the great things that you're doing in this web world?
find me over at techimaginations.net. And if you're interested in a great virtual conference coming up in September, go to Shake Up Learning and get registered for the Back to School conference that I will be presenting.
It is a nice conference. Lots of great people happening to be there, and I'm looking forward to that one myself. Don't forget to head on over to AskTheTechCoach.com. On behalf of Sue Vincent and everybody here on the TeacherCast Educational Network, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you guys to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.
You've been listening to Ask the Tech Coach, hosted by Jeff Bradbury of the TeacherCast Educational Network. Please reach out to the show with all of your questions on Twitter at AskTheTechCoach or online at www.askthetechcoach.com. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And please take a moment to write a review in the App Store.